Now, if you're listening to this podcast, chances are that you have also realized that content is starting to reach the limits of its utility and its appeal. In fact, there's so much content around, and with AI, so much of this content is generated that is not even personal, that we need to look for the next way to engage with our prospects and our clients. And the way that we do that is with interactivity and with quizzes and other tools. And I'm really excited because my guest today works for a company that has clients including Forbes, Salesforce.com, and Tableau, and many of the world's largest companies all rely on this company's quiz and integrated engagement apps to help them to generate leads. And in one case, for example, one company has got over 160,000 visits to their website due to a quiz. We're going to talk to the CMO of a company called Outgrow. Saksham Sharda is joining me from Holland today, although the company itself is registered in New York. Saksham, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, James.
Well, thank you, because as I said in the introduction, content creation has to some degree run its path. And we have to have another way of getting people to have a conversation with us when we can't necessarily be online or in the room with them when they're looking at our website, for example, or even on our social media. Can you explain to me how we can use interactive content and the role that Outgrow is playing in building these relationships with potential and existing clients?
Yeah, right. So I think with the advent of AI, static content like blogs, anything on a website, anything that is not interactive has reached the end of its age. The age is over. There's going to be so much of it produced that one might publish an ebook, but who's to say that anyone has the time to read it in this flood of things being produced? So what you need is to learn from what ChatGPT does, for instance, is you need to make things interactive. And the easiest way to do so is by making quizzes, calculators, anything that is not static. Quizzes, calculators, polls, chatbots, assessments, recommendations, all of these where your tool asks your users or website visitors a couple of questions, and based on that gives them a couple of recommendations. And this can be used for businesses across the board. Now, I'll just give you an example of a quiz that has been hiding in plain sight. For instance, when you walk into a McDonald's, you see this huge screen where they ask you to build your own burger, by selecting a different bun type, a different meat type, vegetables, etc. And that is basically a quiz, because what you're doing is you're choosing, and there's a question posed to you, you choose one thing, then another question is posed to you based on how you answered the first question, and so on and so forth. And that's a quiz. And this is universal. You'll see it on the Tesla website for building your own car. You'll see it on a lawyer's website who's trying to tell you how much money you can save by choosing his legal services over someone else's legal services. That's a calculator. So you just see how universally it's present. And we help businesses across the board, 21 different industries, real estate, law, finance, help them build these quizzes and calculators on our website, outgrow.co. Without knowing how to code, you can do it all by yourself.
Saksham, fascinating, as you say, the impact of AI is kind of exhausting human appetite for static content. You mentioned on outgrow.co, and at the end, you're actually going to kindly give us a coupon which people can use, our listeners can use to get a discount on subscription to Outgrow. You mentioned you've got 21 different industries. Why would you need, if you like, to have different industry types? Aren't all quizzes effectively the same? You're asking people a few questions and giving them a few options and getting the data. What's the difference?
So I'll give you, for instance, and this is how I have learned so much by working with all these different industries and making templates for them. One of the things you notice, for instance, is how specific the knowledge everyone in the industry has. And that's the beautiful thing about humankind as general, right? We have kind of become experts at all these different fields. So for instance, in the fashion industry, one of the things you learn, we had a client who by themselves made a quiz that helps you pick a makeup set for your face. Right. And so they had one of the questions in that quiz that said, what colors are the veins in your wrists? And apparently the color of the veins in your wrists determines the foundation that goes on your face before makeup. And so, that is the kind of specific knowledge that would be completely different in the finance industry. That'd be a completely different question that I would have no idea about. So for us, we provide a tool where you can build this quiz by yourself, but we also provide templates so that it can get your, creativity jogging, and, you can build something great on top of that template, modify the questions. Tomorrow you might be in the fashion industry and you say, maybe it's not the veins under your wrist. Maybe it's something else that determines the kind of foundation that should go on your face. So, come along and play with the software and you can go in all different directions.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. And I have two daughters and they would probably have known the answer, by the way, if I'd asked them. They're experts at this. So really interesting. So you've got like art and auto, beauty and skincare, civil rights, construction, really, really diverse. So you're really helping a business owner who isn't necessarily a quiz creator with these templates to get started already. What would you say are some of the hallmarks of a successful quiz? You've mentioned, which is interesting, that, for example, McDonald's or a car configurator are really quizzes. I'd never really had that perspective before. For an entrepreneur, what would you say are some of the hallmarks of a successful quiz?
So one thing is to as I guess when you walk into a real world store, right? You walk into a shoe shop or a sunglasses store, the person who's behind the counter really has specific knowledge based on which he can recommend you something, but they never bore you with 300 questions before they recommend you something. So one of the hallmarks is to keep it concise. You don't have to show off your knowledge. You just have to gain the essential. You have to ask 5 to 10 questions maximum. Within these questions, I don't know which industry you're in. Within 10 questions, I am 100% certain you'd be able to give a recommendation that is of value. And that's what a quiz is doing, essentially. It is taking in some data that is relevant to the user. And based on that, it is just giving you a particular recommendations. And you can put this on your website. So instead of a salesperson at a shop, you basically have this quiz on your website. And so that is the main thing. And the other thing you have to understand is that you're basically helping with information exchange. That's all you're doing with the quiz. So you might recommend as a real estate agent to someone that, you should take this much money, or you can only afford a house in this price range. And you do that using a calculator or a quiz. And then you can, just before you give them this outcome at the end of the quiz, you ask them for their email. So the quiz should be free on your website to use. And the user answers 7, 8 questions, and then you're going to give them a valuable recommendation, but you collect their email, and then later you follow up with a more detailed, outcome or something. And then when you have their email, you can obviously send them a newsletter and nurture that lead as well. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You don't necessarily have to make the sale at that point. The key thing is A, that you're understanding your audience more, and B, that you are providing them with value, which will make them appreciate you.
That's a really useful mindset, that it's really part of the customer journey. It's not trying to close the sale. When you ask the questions, Saksham, in Outgrow, you've written those questions. How do you structure the responses? Because you talk about giving people some value in the survey. How do you create the content? So they've answered what color veins, for example, would create a need for certain kind of color palettes. What kind of content would you then embed? Is it just a yes, no, you're on a scale of 1 to 5, or do you recommend people should actually provide some content that educates the person who's taken the quiz as well?
So you can have all sorts of quizzes. You can have quizzes on the top of the funnel, in the middle of the funnel, at the bottom of the funnel. So the top of the funnel quiz would be what kind of house can you afford? So here you just give them some options, and then they say, maybe I can actually afford that. I didn't even know that I could afford a house in that part of the world. B, then you go into these people who have done this quiz, then you make a more middle of the funnel quiz for them. What kind of mortgage would you need for the dream house you're looking for? And then from there, you go to the third one where it's just like you give them just 3 options to pick from. So in the case of the quiz about what kind of makeup set you should buy, so if you're like an affiliate of a company that sells makeup products, you can make a quiz that asks them for all these questions like this, the color of the veins, the color of the hair, certain things about their features, and then it can directly recommend 3 or 4 makeup products. So you can just basically, in the outcome itself, you can have a link to 4 particular makeup products on Amazon, on eBay, or on the website you're trying to sell. And as an affiliate, you can derive commission from these sales. This is how the affiliate ecosystem works. Or if you are the owner of these products, as in you're the company or a makeup company, then you can just direct them to your own website, and then they'll end up there, and then they'll just make the sale.
That integration, as we can see on your website, and anyone that wants to go to YouTube can see this as well, because we're doing a screen share. I can see here that what you're talking about, Saksham, is that you're taking the supply and the sales conversation all the way to actually taking them to the website, to the Shopify, depending on what kind of answers they've got. So you're almost replacing a bot, or you're creating an intelligent workflow, aren't you, for people that want to introduce a product or care. If people have got the quiz and they're not sending them down a sales channel, but they've got the emails, what happens to those emails? This is always the $1 million question, isn't it? Because you end up maybe with the emails. What about integration? What about follow-up? Adding these emails into a newsletter, for example. How does that work, Saksham?
So we integrate with over 500 tools natively. So if you want an emailing software, we integrate with MailChimp, we integrate with MailerLite. If you want to send them to HubSpot, we can send them to HubSpot. We have a lot of CRM tools, Zoho, all of these you can natively, they're all. So if you go to the partners marketplace here, you'd see all the, in the partnerships here, you'll see all the tools we integrate with. There's all sorts. You can send them to a Slack channel where you have your sales team sitting. If you like, it's completely possible to just, with a couple of clicks, you can just do it by yourself. You don't need any expert help to transfer this data. But within Outgrow itself as well, because we allow you to send these emails to all these different softwares, and you can do what you like. But if you want to do just one follow-up with these people, you can trigger an email to anyone who submits a lead. So that one follow-up you can do. We don't want to make a sequence of 3-4 follow-ups that you can do on the other softwares, but at least one follow-up you can automatically do through Outgrow. And in a lot of businesses, one follow-up is all people want to do, right? So someone submits an email, and then you just send them a little follow-up saying, hey, we saw that you were interested in buying a house. If you'd like to hop on a call, here are details, and we'll not bother you anymore after this. And that's it, right? And so we don't, you can either choose this path, or you can do several emails. Both are possible, yeah.
That's wonderful. So it can be, if you like, a first step, or if you want to have a string of emails, then you could take that into your own CRM. We've talked at the moment about really people that have come to maybe to your website, for example. But the big challenge for many people is the outreach, Saksham. So how would you get your quiz or engaging content away from your website? Because that relies on inbound. And we want to get people that maybe don't know about us. So how do we distribute the survey to get people, if you like, where they might be if they're not necessarily going to be on our website?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a partnership with Facebook and all its platforms. So one of the things you can do is on your Facebook business page, you can embed the quiz itself. So, through that, you can channel some traffic. But in addition to that, you can put these quizzes, the links to these quizzes in your Instagram stories, so people can just swipe up and end up on the quiz directly from Instagram or on TikTok as well. So the possibilities of driving social traffic are endless. And so, especially when you look at for instance, we have a lot of fitness influencers on Instagram using quizzes because they use fitness quizzes to help people determine what kind of workout schedule they should have, right? Based on a person's weight, based on a person's, time, how much free time they have. So they make a quiz about which is the perfect workout routine for you. And fitness influencers are all over Instagram. So they put it in their Instagram stories, and then people through the stories end up with a quiz. Through that, these influencers collect more data and they're able to make personalized plans. So the possibilities here are endless. But if you're not doing socials, then instead of that, you can also go to like Quora or like Reddit or these websites, and there you can also post like in threads that are relevant to the particular discussions that your industry is in. You can mention that, hey, here's a quiz that'll help you, check your perfect fitness plan, or here's a quiz that will help you, determine the right makeup that you should be putting on your face. And this quiz helped me. So on and so forth, right? So you go to the places where people are looking for answers, and then you post a quiz, because you're not really being salesy. You're really giving information. So you're not going to get banned or something.
And that's wonderful, because so often if you're, for example, commenting on someone else's post, you're maybe opening a conversation, which then becomes quite a thread. But if you have a quiz, then you can get them to have an interaction with you. And as you say, get much more data as well, and get them much more finessed answers too. We've got also on the website about quizzes and giveaways, Saksham. What kind of giveaways are we talking about? Because it's one thing to interact with the content, but if we want to do, for example, prize draws, which could be really great incentive to get people to enter. And I know that when it comes to, for example, some FMCG products, early doors, product gifts, and so on are really useful. How would you use Outgrow for that kind of case study?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Would you like to double your salary without starting another business? The easy way to do this is to join the board of another company. You get well paid for a part-time role. You get all the credibility that comes with being a board member. Plus, you get to hang out with some very cool people and learn how other businesses are dealing with their problems. If you'd like to know more, if you'd like to learn how you get your first board seat within 60 days, just click on the link below, as UnNoticed is a gold sponsor of our summit, so you get free tickets. Enjoy. I'll see you there.
So, for instance, the contest template type is very helpful because it has got a timer on top. So you can automatically say that this contest is going to last for a day, after which it's going to be disabled. So if you want, you can do now. So what it does is you can say, hey, share a picture of why you like our software. And then based on the number of likes and engagements you get on your post, you might be the winner or not. So we have a contest template type, which automatically collects the amount of likes your post got, and you can see a leaderboard to see who's winning the contest and who's not going to win the contest. So it creates this hype where everyone is in a competitive mood and there's suspense who's going to win. So that's a helpful landing page also for advertisements and stuff. So that is definitely a way in which you can give away one thing for free, like a shirt of your podcast brand name, or like a chance to come on your podcast. You can put it on a contest, and then several people compete based on whoever gets the most engagement for your podcast is the one who gets to come on your show. So the possibilities with interactive content are endless. So instead of like just making a static post about saying, hey, whoever gets the most engagement comes on my show, you can instead have like a live contest that is actually seeing who's winning right now and not.
That is taking interactive marketing to another level, because you're not just doing engagement, but then you're doing competition as well, Saksham, which is amazing. And that it's also embedded in all the different channels that you might have. And presumably you can attach that to a Facebook advert, presumably.
Yes.
So you could run an ad, which is a quiz, so that you're doing completely new lead generation. Would that be the case?
You can embed it in 8 different types. You can have it as a full page embed on your website. You can have it embedded in your Facebook post. You can have it embedded as a little chatbot at the bottom of your website. It's possible, like the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, it does seem that Outgrow's really covered off so many different feature sets and applications, and the website is so rich in content that when I was preparing for this call with Saksham, I was like, what am I going to ask you? Because the website, outgrow.co, really does explain a great deal. One thing that the site doesn't explain is what makes a bad quiz or engagement. We talked about what makes a good one, not too many questions, for example. But in your experience, because you're the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer there, you must have seen some real howlers, some some quizzes that just didn't take off. And any observations, without naming names, of course, or shaming anyone, of what people tend to get wrong?
Mm-hmm. So I think the key point is that you need to ensure that the questions remain less than 10 questions. So it's also what makes it good, but also what makes it bad. The more questions you have, I feel the less important. People are going to give it less importance depending on that. So yeah. So that's one thing. And the other thing to keep in mind is don't get into too much technical knowledge. You always have to understand that you might be an expert in your field, but others are complete novices. So you have to understand that if you pose too many technical questions, they would be like, oh, okay, this feels like an exam and I don't want to be sitting in an exam. So that is the main thing to keep in mind. Yeah.
Okay. So not to make it too boring, right? I mean, to try and make it lighthearted and amusing. And can one embed video and images, presumably, in the quizzes as well to lighten this up? It's not all just text and numbers and scales.
Can one embed what?
Videos or music or
yes,
images?
For sure. You can have videos, images, GIFs, which I would highly recommend because GIFs are quite helpful in providing a short video. So it's just like a 3-second video instead of having to watch the entire video. It's just a 3-second video that is keeping you entertained. So yeah, definitely. Keep GIFs you can embed. You can have a video that like explains before the quiz even starts what your company is about. So you can have that. Or another thing is that, if, for instance, you are a technology company or any company that wants to give a particular tutorial, right? Or like, for instance, your podcast is a video. So the point is when you recommend different, if someone comes to your website and says and answers a couple of questions and then goes to you can show them different outcomes with different videos, so different outcomes contain different episodes, and that is something that'll be of help.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing. How does it find the episodes to share? I can see that it's like the quiz with McDonald's in a way. It's you like this, and this, it'll take you to. How does it decide which inventory to pull? How does it know which show to deliver? Do you have to code that yourself?
How does it decide which inventory to pull?
Yeah, because you said if someone answers a certain set of questions, you could decide which podcast interview they're interested in, or I guess which car product or whatever. How does it decide what to deliver, what to pass back?
Yeah, it's just that you build the logic into the quiz. So if someone like answers the first question and chooses option C, and then someone answers the second question, that same person, and chooses option A, then based on what choices they made, if most of their answers were C, they get a different, in all the questions, if most of the answers were a particular pattern, they get a different outcome, and you can easily map that yourself. It's just a matter of drawing lines automatically in the builder, and it does that for you. So yeah.
Oh, that's very nice.
You can also like have them take different parts. So someone who answers A might be shown completely different questions than someone who answers B. So there are different routes you can take, but it's basically like making a flow chart. So it's actually quite easy.
Okay.
Sounds more complex than it is.
Well, as you say, the theory behind it is sophisticated, but it looks as though at Outgrow, it's been made to be easy. And you're going to kindly share a coupon in a little while that people can use to get a significant discount. You are also the CMO, so the Chief Marketing Officer. So you've been building what is basically a brand for a SaaS. You're in Europe, the company's based out of New York, plainly it's got clients all over the world. How are you building the brand for Outgrow? Love to hear your expertise there.
So the idea is to convince everyone that it is an all-in-one interactive content solution. So unlike the other brands out there that offer you to build a form or like, a quiz, we really allow you to build like 8 different types of interactive content. So once you're on your software and you get a hang of it, which is not really hard, you can really like expand the ways in which you can market all over the place. So that is one way that we're trying to really position our brand. And the second thing that we do is that we go to a lot of events. We have a lot of partnerships with some of the biggest events in the world. And these are also not like monetary partnerships. These are all for free because they really do like our software. So we have been to the Web Summit, we've been to Collision in Toronto, we've been to the Next Web in Amsterdam and CES Las Vegas. So all of these Mobile World Congress, we have like partnered with a lot of companies like Nokia, Samsung, and all of these people. What we really try to do is to get a brand noticed by really just showing, even at these events, how well these quizzes do. So, that's basically what has been our strategy for getting our brand name across.
Yeah, well, it is plainly working. I found Outgrow and reached out because I was so excited to see what you're doing. Because, as you said, there's a lot of form builder sites, but they're lacking this interactivity and the engagement and also the distribution.
Yeah, for sure, because you can make a form on Google Form itself. You don't really need a special form builder website to make a form. Google Forms is quite adept at making these forms itself. It's just that if you really want to make a good interactive experience, you need to think beyond a form. That is a quiz, and a quiz allows you is just a more interactive form with more logic jumps that allows you to give different outcomes. Whereas the form is just collecting data, and people don't always just like to give their data.
Yeah, no, and I think the current sort of data collection is really not a long way off static content, to be honest, and there's not much incentive for people. Speaking of incentives, Saksham, I am going to ask you for your podcast recommendation in just a moment, but you've kindly got an offer for listeners of the UnNoticed. So would you like to share what that is for anyone that's wants to find this? It's on outgrow.co, and the pricing is actually, to be honest, very, very reasonable. Do you want to just take us through what it would cost someone and the offer that you've got for them?
Yeah, so for sure, to begin with, anyone can just use a 7-day free trial from our website to see if the quiz works for them. Use a template. That's all for free for 7 days. If it doesn't work for you in 7 days, you'll know already. So you really don't need to get a plan, right? So just go and build something, and it's all for free for 7 days. It won't take you much time. And then if you do see that it works for you, then you can start from any of these plans that you can see there. And if you want a discount, you can just go to the chat bot at the bottom right of our website and just type UnNoticed 20% and claim a discount. And that's it. Like it's as simple as that. See if it works for you. If it does not, then you don't get it. But if it does, which it will, then you can remember this discount that I gave you.
Okay, there's UnNoticed 20. Do they need to put the percent or just UnNoticed 20?
UnNoticed 20 should work as well. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And just so you know, there's a freelancer package which enables you to have 5 types. And on the annual plan, it's only $14 a month, which is sort of £11-12. So really very, very affordable. And if you pay monthly, it's the best part of £18. It's really very, very affordable. And you can move up the scale, of course, depending on how many you want to, how many different content types you want. But for most people, that entry level would more than suffice. Saksham, I will ask you, as you know, for a podcast or book that you'd recommend to unnoticed entrepreneurs to help them to find tools and tips to get noticed.
For sure, you should listen to the Market of the Month podcast that I host, which is which really covers like all these diverse range of industries that I've been talking about. Like I've talked to everyone in literally every industry. So definitely give that a look. We have interviews with Nokia, Samsung, Microsoft, the European Union's tech commissioner, the United States employment tech commissioner. All of them have been on the show and talked about it. So definitely give that a listen. Okay,
just repeat the name of the show for us.
Marketer of the Month.
Marketer of the Month. And of course, we'll put a link to that in the show. Saksham, thank you for being, my marketer of the month by coming on the show and explaining how really in this day and age of AI, we've got to build engagement, not just content. So thank you so much for coming on the show to share that message with me.
Thanks so much for having me on the show, Jim.
Well, it's very rare that we get to see technology that enables us across not just the practical implementation, but also across the business. The fact that you can create these quizzes and integrate, for example, your e-commerce, or that you can distribute those across your social media makes this such a different platform than the static forms and questionnaires that one sees so often. That's why I was so keen to have Outgrow on the show today. So if you've enjoyed this, do head over to outgrow.co. We don't have a relationship. I'm not an affiliate. I just really think that it's a great product. And if you've enjoyed this show, then do please review it on your player of choice. And just remember that we don't leave any unnoticed entrepreneur behind. And until we meet again, I just do encourage you to keep on communicating.